in Washington, D.C. joins me now. Good to see you, sir. I'm grateful for your time. The quote of the day, the quote du jour is, "The worst is yet to come." When I look at the numbers, I can sort of see it getting worse. But in your view, how bad is it going to get?
Well, thank you, Richard. Our projections are that output growth is going to slow down globally to about 2.7%, something like 1.1% for advanced economies. And inflation is still going to be high next year. We're projecting about 4.4% in advanced economies, 6.5% globally. So there's going to be an environment in which you still have inflation, the economy is slowing down, still have people dealing with high energy prices and food prices. And so it's going to feel worse than where it is right now.
Where do you think we are in the monetary tightening cycle? I know that's how long's a piece of string when you look at the different countries. But if we take the majors, if we take, for example, the US, the EU, UK, whatever, where are we, do you think?
Well, we think we're in the middle of a very important battle that central banks are waging to bring back price stability. It's a very important fight because price stability, we view it as sort of the bedrock of macroeconomic stability going forward. So it's very important that we get back to a place where, we don't have to worry about inflation, whether it's 1.8 or 2.2. No one really is going to spend too much time thinking about that. And that requires tightening monetary policy. And the central banks have really been focused on that since the beginning of the year. Now, our view is that what they have announced, whether you're looking at the Fed or other central banks, is sort of getting us there. Maybe not by the end of next year, but maybe sometime in 2024, we're going to get there. But it's important that we stay the course. If we start moving away or pausing or even pivoting away from this, then inflation is not going to come down.
Well, I know from your projection, you have the US at 2.3% by the end of 2023. Now, arguably, by the time it gets on a CPI basis, by the time it gets to the end of their 2.3, would they be justified in easing on the monetary tightening?
Well, they would, but you have to remember that we are starting from a position where many central banks were very accommodating at the beginning of this year. We're starting from a position where, in the lingo of central banks, we were not at neutral. Central banks were still very accommodating. So a lot of what you've seen up until now, until very recently, I would say, is sort of removing that accommodation, is not really tightening. So once we get to 2% and the economy is sort of moving along nicely, central banks should also stay closer to neutral. So we're not expecting to go back to the very low rates that we've seen, we're implementing during the pandemic, for instance. There is no basis for this.
Right now, related to that, as I understand it, we've really got two distinct processes at the moment, haven't we? We've got the process of getting rid of inflation, and then we've got what it all looks like afterwards. Now, one Fed governor today basically says that rates need to be more restrictive. If you take the UK with its high numbers and the EU and the US, do you believe that rates do need to be much more restrictive?
We don't believe that they need to be more restrictive than where they have announced to be going. So, if you look at what the Fed has been saying, and if you look at the projections in terms of their own projections, economic projections for where policy rates are going to be, they're seeing more tightening going forward. We don't anticipate that there is a need to do more than that. What we're guarding against is a view that there should be a pivot away or pivot towards easing or pausing in terms of this path.
On the UK, the language used initially by the fund, initially after the increase, the Chancellor's policy, basically saying you're wrong, and now the language used in the WEO. Was there much debate about how critical to be?
Well, look, I think our position here, and let me not be talking specifically about the UK because our position is very general. Our view is fiscal policy in the energy crisis and food price crisis that many countries are facing has an important role to play. It needs to be protecting vulnerable households and potentially protecting important parts of the business sectors. Now, it cannot do that in a way that would be working at cross purpose with monetary policy. So we've been concerned when we are seeing fiscal packages, wherever they might be coming from, that might be adding sort of to the inflation fire. And that, in a sense, should not be recommended.
To the extent the UK is obviously a G7 country, G20, and an important shareholder in the fund, is it difficult for the fund when a major developed economy like the UK appears to be putting in place policies that really go counter to everything you think should be done at the moment?
Well, look, we have a very strong relation with the UK here at the IMF, and we have an ongoing dialogue. So we're not worried about having exchanges with the authorities as we are.
Now, I want you to listen to this. Last one on the UK, and then we'll move on to emerging markets and spillovers. But have a listen to what the Chancellor said today in Parliament. It was a novel way to take your comments, or the Rio's comments, and turn it to his and spin it to his advantage. Have a listen.
The IMF said today that actually the plan, the mini budget, has increased the forecast for growth. So it's precisely the opposite of what the Honourable Lady has said. And it's very clear where we stand on this. We've got pro-growth, pro-enterprise, pro-business Conservatives on one side and the anti-growth coalition on the other side.
Right, well, ignoring the politics, let's look at the economics. You've got to admit that was a sharp way of turning what you said to his advantage.
Well, look, it's clear that, measures that would support long-term growth are desirable. It's clear also that measures to protect businesses and households in the context of the energy crisis are also desirable. And it's also the case that, countries have a limited fiscal space, and they need to do it in a way that doesn't necessarily works at cross purpose with monetary policy. So we're just outlining these broad principles. Right. And I think, within that context, we're very much looking forward to, seeing what the UK fiscal event at the end of the month, where this is going, we're going to have more details and this is going to be discussed.
The emerging markets. I guess I can't remember the number of times now I've heard warnings about spillover effects, but the reality is nobody's listening. The developed economies are making policies, perhaps rightly, for their own economies. But whether it was food security on Ukraine, Russia, or now monetary policy that's basically sucking out investment from developing economies, how concerned are you?
Well, there is a number of fragilities in emerging markets and low-income countries. I mean, a number of low-income countries are in situations where they have debts that are not quite sustainable. They're in a situation of debt distress. And we really encourage a number of these countries to really start discussions with their creditors to bring back their debts to a sustainable level that will unlock access to fund financing and fund resources, because that's what we're here and we can help with. Now, it's true that monetary policy in advanced economies is tightening financial conditions around the world, and it's leading to a strong dollar, for instance, which is weighing down on a number of emerging market economies. But we are saying in this context is a lot of the strength of the dollar is related to fundamental forces, the fight against inflation we discussed already, and the energy crisis. And in that environment, it's important to sort of have your monetary policy target your domestic objectives, and then let the exchange rate, to the extent you can, let the exchange rate adjust, because some of that adjustment is fundamental.
Pierre-Olivier, many thanks. We will be in Washington with you tomorrow, and indeed on Friday at the IMF and World Bank annual meetings. And of course, we have the debate as well, which we're looking forward to as well. Many thanks for joining us tonight.